Hi everybody, this is Rhys Barber from Audiology Associates. Thanks for watching the earwax removal video today. We got a great one for you today. Now this is a tale of very different ear canals. Same patient, so we'll see this first ear canal here. Patient come through complaining of lots of issues as far as hearing is concerned. If they get their ears wet, they can't hear for ages afterwards. And you can see why. We've got a very full ear canal. Lovely soft wax on this side though. But watch this as we start to pull some of this out. What you'll start to notice, this first section here, this is wax, but see that little tail of keratin? That gives you a bit of a hint as to what's going to be coming next. So it's a very, very full ear canal. But when we start pulling this now, you can see it starts to unravel a little bit. So we've got a lot of very loose, luckily in this case, keratin in this ear canal, which is why the patient was having so much difficulty with their general day-to-day hearing. It had formed a really good blockage. So we've got, there you go, as we start to pull this out, you can really see these layers of keratin starting to come away now. So this isn't really keratosis obturans, all right? What you've got is a lot of keratin in this ear canal. It's not pressing against the canal wall. It's not kind of hardened up or solid. It's all very loose ribbons of keratin. This patient actually came to see us about 2 or 3 years ago. We cleared them out then, and they've come in now, I think it's 3 years later. So I've recommended that they come in a little bit more often. But you can see how all that was bunched in the ear canal there. So we're just going to do a little tiny bit of tidying up. Let's get rid of some of these pieces around the outside edge. Make sure you stay tuned for the second ear canal. It is very, very different and a lot harder to remove. So we've got this one coming away. There you go. All these little tiny pieces, just a bit of tidying up. Don't forget the ear canal walls are quite sensitive. So if you do see little tiny little bits left behind, that's fine. It's not going to cause any problems for the patient. The patient can hear really well. We should have some wax in the ear canal anyway, and sometimes it's just a little bit too tender for us to remove the patient. Now, I said very different. Look at this. This is mostly wax, and it is solid as a rock. Now, I don't know whether the patient had oiled one side or not the other. Lots of patients do that because when you put oil in your ear canals, for the first couple of days, you do feel more blocked up for a couple of different reasons. The oil will sit around the gaps in the wax, blocking those up. It'll also cause the wax to expand slightly, which also causes a few issues. So sometimes patients, when they put the oil in one ear, they get so blocked up, they think, oh my goodness, I'm not doing that on the other side as well. I'll be totally blocked up on both sides. But you can see we're fighting with this. Now, I've tried suction tube, didn't really break it down. We've tried Jobson Hole, that didn't really break it down either. I'm using the Rosen inserter to see if I can get down the side of it, because I'm thinking if this is a solid wax plug, I might be able to get down the side, behind it slightly, and pull forwards. But what I can start to see is there's a lot of dry keratinous material around the outside edge of this plug. But the plug itself, which you'll see, is not actually solid. There you go. See how the Rosen inserter is just cutting straight through it, which means that it's a very, very thick clay consistency wrapped in a shell or a husk of dry keratin. So yeah, not an easy one to remove. So that basically the clay type wax is going to be anchored onto the keratin. The keratin is going to be dried onto the canal, which means nothing wants to come out of this ear canal. So what I'm doing here, which I've used a few times in the past, is I'm using the side of the suction tube almost a bit like a curettage tool. So you've got a bit of a combo of both. You've got a combination of the suction being used and the side of the tube being used almost like curettage. So you're kind of passing along the surface. So what I'm doing is almost scraping along the surface of the wax, which you can see me doing here. So as I'm moving it, any looser bits then are getting sucked inside the suction tube, but we're also just sort of pressing down on the side as well, just to try and break a gap around that surface. There we are. It's starting to break down a little bit now. We are going to use some olive oil in a second, but I'm just tidying up these edges and getting this away. The wax was so close to the outside part of the ear canal. If I put some olive oil in at that point, it would have been all over the cilia and it would have really been difficult for us to maintain the view. So you can see the olive oil's gone in now. Let's see how this breaks down this time. There you go, we're starting to peel. You can start to see bits breaking away now. The olive oil's made a really big difference. I think if we'd also put it in as the wax was on initial inspection, the surface that would have been so dry, the oil just would have slid straight off the surface and it would have made any difference at all. But the fact we've broken the surface down a little bit, the oil can just penetrate in. It's not in here for very long, literally a minute or two, and then we're in here with the suction tube. Don't forget, guys, if you do enjoy these videos, you can like, heart, share, follow, and subscribe for us. And if you have ear problems like this gent did, you can always check out our bio or our link tree. That will take you through to the website, and you can book yourself an appointment from there. There you go. You can see it's really starting to come apart now. It's really loosening up a little bit. So let's get this next section. Now there's the keratin. You can see we're wrapping this, enclosing this wax in just around the surface there. Now there is a little bit of keratin further in. You can start to see that now. See how the consistency has changed a little bit? Rather than being brittle, as we're starting to pull, you've seen all these tails attached to the wax beyond it. And that's the keratin that's interwoven into that wax there. So it's a real kind of mixed bag of different consistencies, and it's just a difficult one to get out. There we go. Now I will warn patients sometimes, if you've got this wax and they haven't oiled it, sometimes we aren't able to get it out on the first visit. We have to get them to soften it and come back. But they don't mind so much because they can hear better usually from the other ear because we've cleared that one. Look at this coming away. You can see that is fighting me every millimetre of this ear canal. Giving this a good old wiggle there to break it apart. There we go. That did not want to come up, but it's pulled another section forwards. So now we're starting to see this whole plug breaking down, loosening up, all these keratin strips all coming away here. There we go, a little bit more. Look at that, now that is keratin. Look at that piece. So you can see why this was just so firmly bound together. Now we're into the deepest sections now. But notice how the wax is a little bit drier at this point. Now I've managed to get obviously a big chunk of keratin out, so I'm going to see if I've got any more pieces that I can loosen up before we introduce a bit more olive oil. So normally I would keep going. If we're still getting little bits out and looser pieces out, I'd keep going until that started to look like it wasn't going to budge anymore. Then I'd introduce a bit more olive oil, which is what I've done here. But look at this now. Look, as we're pulling it, see it got sucked, well not sucked back here, but pulled back into the ear canal. And that's because there's a long strip, there you go, look, of keratin on the back of that one as well. This was so dense, this stuff. Let's have a look now. We're getting to the last of it. It was one strip, that's keratin there, that strip. So we'll get rid of that. Looks like there's another strip of keratin beyond it, I would say, just there. That looks like it's a ribbon of keratin interwoven into some hard wax. Let's pull that, see what happens. You can see as I pulled it, it drew another piece of wax down with it, and then the keratin came out from the gap and left the wax in place. So this was the piece of wax it pulled forward, so we'll move that next. There we go, out that comes. A little bit of a keratin underbelly to that one as well. We're getting to the end of this now. Now you can imagine the relief the patient was feeling to get this out. The ear canals do look a little bit red. Obviously you've had a lot of dry skin sitting on top of those canals and it hasn't been able to sort of expel the fresher skin from underneath. So everything's a little bit irritated in there at the moment. So let's get everything out. Patient's hearing better already because we can see the eardrum or part of the eardrum. There we go. Now, there are a couple of loose pieces. Now, I did get this one out. Now, there's a piece just above the pars plana, right in the attic region. Now, that looks like a piece of dry, dead skin. Now, I did pop the suction tube on that, but it did not budge, and the patient said that was starting to feel a bit uncomfortable. So we've left this piece is the bit I'm talking about here. Now, I thought it was a looser piece to start with, but it just... You can see there's a little bit of flex there, and that's just pulling on the skin. So patient did find that a little bit uncomfortable, so we left that one there. And you can see we're just sort of taking some of the looser pieces off the outside edge. There we go. Guys, if you do have any comments or questions, make sure you drop them into the comment section below. When I'm back from my holiday, we'll have a little look at them and we'll see what's going on. Eardrum. Wow, look at that. That is, I mean, I've bunched that up and double laid it. That's 6 centimeters worth of wax. That is just over 2 inches. And that is just all combined together. I haven't spread that. If I spread that out, that probably would have been twice as long. But yeah, I told you it was a good one, didn't I? Well, guys, thank you so much for watching our earwax removal video today. The lovely Mr. Taylor Green will be with you on Monday, because I think he's doing the edit for Monday. But as always, guys, take care of yourselves, take care of your ears, and take care of one another. And I'll see you again real soon. Bye, everyone.